Hi guys, welcome to today's webinar. Thank you so much to our amazing facilitators who will be facilitating today. We're just going to give everyone a few minutes to join before we get started. But in the meantime, if you are joining now, please let us know which university you are from and what you're studying. We'd love to know more about where you guys are tuning in from. We're very excited for today's webinar. We'll be speaking you through um, the Feenix registration journey. And we hope that you guys are ready to learn some tips from the experts. So today's session will be a session, like I said, about the Feenix registration journey with our Feenix Student Advancement team. We've also pinned a comment for you guys where you can fill in a quick survey about the feedback you have on today's session, what you found most useful, and obviously, if you still have any additional questions, please just feel free to let us know by emailing support@feenix.org. So we have quite a few people who have joined in. So I'll be asking Bashira to introduce herself first. And speaking about introductions, I am Elzan Julius. I'll be hosting today's webinar. I am the Feenix Advancement Coordinator. Some of you might know us because we are the Student Advancement team and we've interacted a lot with you guys. I see we have someone from UCT. Welcome, Prof. Guys, if you're tuning in, please let us know which university you are studying at, and also feel free to let us know what you're studying. And we're very excited to have you guys with us here today for our first Feenix registration webinar. We'll be speaking you guys through the registration journey, as well as the documents and information you need to create a Feenix profile. And you also have a chance to ask us any questions you might have. So if during the session you have some questions, please feel free to let us know in the comment section. Send us some love. I'm seeing the heart emojis. Thank you guys so much for joining us today. I see we also have someone from Nelson Mandela University as well as from the Central University of Technology. Welcome, guys. Thank you so much for joining. And Bashira, I'm handing over to you to please introduce yourself.
Thanks so much, Elzan. Hi, everyone. It's awesome to be here. I am Bashira Bihardin. I'm the Student Advancement Officer, and I'm looking so forward to today's session. All your questions, all your input, it's going to be awesome.
Thank you, Bashira. And now I'll be handing over to Luando.
Thanks, Elzan. Hey, everyone. I'm Luando, the Student Advancement Coordinator. Very happy to be here. I see some names I've dealt with in the past. So if you've given us a call, spoken to us on WhatsApp, I've probably spoken to you before. So really happy to finally put some faces to those names. Thanks, Elzan.
Thanks so much, Luando. I see we also have some ambassadors who joined us today. Welcome, Koseho. Guys, please feel free to introduce yourselves in the comment section. We're very excited to be having this webinar with you guys today. If you have any questions throughout the session, please let us know in the comment section. I see Tony saying he's glad to finally see you, Luando, and thank you for all your help. I think we might have a few of those coming through today. Okay, guys, we are going to get started with the actual webinar. Like I said, guys, if you have questions, please pop it in the comment section. We will be answering those questions. We've also pinned a comment on top. Just a short survey that you guys can please complete about today's session, as well as letting us know if you have any other topics that you would love for us to cover in future. So I'm officially handing over to Luando. Bashir and I will see you all in a bit. Thanks, guys.
All right. Thanks so much, Ozan. And as Ozan said, this is our first webinar of the year, just taking you through the Feenix registration journey. So I'll be mentioning a few things, and then I'll hand over to Bashir to go over the documents. First up, who qualifies to use the platform? So citizenship type, you must be a South African citizen, permanent resident, refugee, and asylum seeker. I first want to just jump into this and then slowly jump into the other points. So how the platform is set up is each citizenship type of student goes through a different registration process. So when you register, what I'll mention in the next slide is what you need. And then based on the citizenship type, you'll need something different. So for example, if you're a South African citizen, you'll need your ID number, your sponsor's ID number. So your sponsor's ID number is to work out your household, your combined annual household income. As you can see right at the bottom, the financial criteria. One of that is that your combined household income must not be over 600,000 for the year. And if you're a student living with a disability, must not be over 850,000 for the year. So we'll need the sponsor's ID number to work this out. We have an independent service provider who does this for us. So when you register, you enter your sponsor's ID number, and this can be your parents' ID numbers, your spouse, your siblings, or anyone in your family who's over 18. So we'll need all those ID numbers. And then once you've completed your registration, the service provider uses those ID numbers you've given us to work out your combined household income. So that's why we need the sponsor's ID number. So important that it's different from your ID number, because when you enter your ID number, it won't be, you won't go through. So that's another step then. So if you're independent or an orphan, then you go through a separate process than a person who's living with someone who has a South African ID number, who can go through the process I just mentioned. So if you're an independent student, which means you're an orphan, so you don't have anyone who's contributing to you financially, then you go through a separate process. So what we'll need from you is your contact support, right? You go through the first step of the process, enter your ID number, your details, and then you'll be directed to support. And you go through a different process whereby we'll need your supporting documents to work out your combined household income. So we'll need your ID copy, your 3 months bank statement, a pay slip, and if you're not working, if you're not employed, then we'll need an affidavit stating that, and then any other supporting documents. But as I mentioned, when you go through that process, you'll be directed to support, and we'll take you through all those steps that we need. So that's the South African citizen. So if you're a South African citizen living with someone at home who contributes financially, you go through the first process I mentioned, whereby you'll submit a sponsor's ID number. And if you're an independent student, you'll contact support, and you go through a different process. And if you're an asylum seeker or refugee, you'll go through another separate process, because your sponsor's ID is most likely a permit number. So our system doesn't accept anything besides the 13-digit South African ID number. So you go through a separate process whereby you'll submit to your parents, your spouse or guardians supporting documents, so we can work out your household income. But you enter your details, and then you'll be directed to support. And then after that, we will mention what we need from you. And because of that, we've come up with a different process, for asylum seekers and refugees. So when you contact us on support, we send you an offline document that you fill in. And then after that, we'll request the documents I just mentioned from you, so that you go through that process. So just to recap, it's 3 different types of students. There's the South African citizen or the permanent resident, who goes through that process whereby they submit the sponsor's ID number, and our independent service provider works out the student's household income. And then there's an independent student who is independent, so they don't have a sponsor's ID number. They go through a different process whereby they submit the supporting documents for us to work out the household income. And then there's a asylum seeker refugee, who we send an offline manual form for them to fill in, and then they send it back to us, and then we complete their profile on their behalf, get it started, and then request the supporting documents for us to work out the household income for them. Hope we're still together. And then the next thing is the course criteria. Okay, so any field of study, as long as you register or have historical debt at one of the 26 public South African universities. So it can be current date, it can be historical date, but you can only fundraise towards a single year's date. So for example, if you have historical date at Wits and you have current date at UCT, you need to decide which one you'd like to fundraise for. Has to be one per platform, per funding year. Next thing then is, can be any field, engineering, humanities, whatever. Can be part-time, can be full-time. It doesn't really matter as long as you are at registered have historical date at a public South African university. So what do we need from you then once you meet those? So you meet the citizenship criteria I mentioned, the course criteria, and then the financial criteria. So what do you need to get started? Right, you'll need, next slide please, also, what you'll need is a working email address. And this is very important because this email address is what we'll use to communicate with you, right? So any communication that comes from Feenix will go through this. So if we need anything from you, for example, if you're creating your profile and there's something missing, we'll first contact you by email and we'll also contact you by your number. So it's very important that all the information that you submit is valid and it works and you have access to it. And another thing is, make sure that the email is active, because one step of creating your profile is actually verifying your email address. And you will get an email in your inbox from Feenix for you to confirm that the email address you use to register works. So you can't just use a random email address. Make sure that the email address you use is valid, because you need to verify your email address. And if you don't, your profile won't be complete, so it won't get to us. We only look at complete profiles. So it's important that you get that done. And the number, as I mentioned, if we can't get a hold of you via email, we're most likely going to contact you via your number. And the number we have is what you submit. So just make sure that you have a number that works. And then the second thing you'll need is your personal information. So your name, your physical address, just the type of thing, and your ID number. Make sure that you know your ID number and you enter the correct ID number. For instances where students have entered the incorrect ID number, could have been by mistake. For example, maybe the last digit of your ID number is 087 and you enter 084. We'll check that when we moderate. So if your ID number is different from your ID copy, obviously then you'll fail moderation because that's different. So make sure that the personal information you have and your education information matches your documents. And the educational information I'm talking about is your student number, the course you're doing, the year of study, your graduation year. So in the year of study will be the year you're doing. So if you're doing second year, and then if you've graduated, there's an option when you register to take to say you've graduated. And the other thing that you need to know is the funding year. The funding year will always be the current year of your fundraising profile. So for example, if you have a profile, if you need to fundraise for 2022, this year, the funding year will always be 2022, sorry. So if you were trying to fundraise for historical date 2019, but you have a profile in 2022, the funding year will always be the current year. So if you come back next year and you need to fundraise for date for 2022, the funding year will be next year's year. I hope that makes sense. So the funding year will always be the year that you fundraise for. So it's very important that we keep that in mind, because we've had instances where students get confused and they ask us, what does funding year mean? What those things mean as well. I also just want to go back on the citizenship tab when you register. It's a mistake that students make, that they select a different country from South Africa. So if you're a South African citizen, just make sure that you select that. But we've had instances where either by mistake or whatever, a student selects that they were born in Afghanistan, but they live in South Africa and they're South African citizen. So the system will automatically then change that. If you say you're born somewhere else except South Africa, the system will change that to a non-SA citizen. So you might have an issue entering your ID number because it recognizes you as a non-SA citizen. And then you see on the fields, the only place you can enter the permanent ID number is if you're a South African citizen. So if you're born in South Africa, make sure that you select South Africa as the place of birth, as a country of birth rather, even if you're a permanent resident. So if you're a permanent resident, you'll be seen as a non-SA citizen. So obviously you'll select the country of birth. So for example, Germany, that's the country of birth. Country of citizen will be South Africa, and then you'll be a permanent resident. But in the system, you'll be seen as a non-SA citizen, and your ID number will be entered under the permanent ID number field. So it's very important that you keep those things, because if you do something wrong for some reason, you get a pop-up, and I'm sure you guys have seen that maybe where you say some form errors. That's because you would have selected the wrong country. So just make sure that you select South Africa if you were born in South Africa, and then everything else will be the same. And I just want to touch on quick also on the number before I hand over to Ozan. If you have a number that's like a 068 or 067 number, you might have experienced issues with entering your number. That's because our system doesn't currently recognize those numbers because they're fairly new numbers. They've recently been given over to people. It's just like I think the past 2 or 3 years, the 067 or 068 number. So if you have such issues, then you can always just contact us in support, and we'll help you just get over that. And yeah, I think I've covered everything and what you need. And then this is the offline document I mentioned for asylum seekers and refugees. So like I mentioned, you come onto the platform, or you contact support. We'll do the offline document for you, send it to you, you fill it in, and then we'll get you started and then request the supporting documents for you. I'm not sure if I've missed anything, but I'll just want to recap quickly. So permanent South African citizen goes through the platform one way. Permanent resident goes off the platform, contact support, and then we'll let you know the next steps, the following step. Same as the asylum seeker refugee. We'll send you an offline document for you to complete, and then we'll tell you what documents you need. And then once that's done, we'll onboard you and let you know if you need anything else. I'll hand over to you, Elzan, to just go over the documents. Thanks. You're on mute.
Oh no. Sorry, guys. After 3 years, that still happens occasionally. So thank you so much, Luando, for that awesome recap on the students who qualify to be on the Feenix crowdfunding platform. I think it's very important for you when creating a profile that you remember the 3 criterias. And even if you are telling a friend about it, make sure that you mention the criterias. If an ambassador has assisted you, we have some ambassadors in our session today. So at most universities, we have student ambassadors on the ground who will be able to assist you. So then you can just also double check with those ambassadors to make sure that you are covered, and they'll also be available to assist you guys to create profiles should you need the assistance. But in terms of the different students that can be on our platform, Luando, thank you so much. You did an amazing job in capturing that. Guys, if you have any questions, please let us know in the comment section, and we can clarify those questions during the FAQ session, which we'll be having after Bashira has spoken. But thank you so much, Luando, for doing the first part of today's webinar. So next, I will be handing over to Bashira, who will be taking you guys through the rest of the webinar, which will start by speaking about the profile pictures that students are required to upload on the platform. Thank you, Bashira.
Thank you so much, Elzan. So let's get into some of the documents that are required when you are creating your Feenix fundraising profile. So when it comes to the picture, one of the most important things is you want to keep the picture as recent as possible. So let's say within the last 12 months, we change, we're human beings, we change often. So it's always a great idea to make sure that your picture is an updated reflection of where you are at this particular point in your life. Also ensuring that you are the focus of your picture and that you have a clear background. So we know sometimes it's fun to take group pictures or even graduation pictures when you're getting capped, but it is important that you are the star of your own show and you're the star of your own profile, right? And that also you're wearing appropriate clothing. So it doesn't necessarily have to be business attire, but we do like to keep it classy. We do like to keep it a little more upbeat and more formal. What also works really nicely is if you have clothes that is related to your studies. So example, if you're a medical student and you want to wear your scrubs, that is always a great idea. It's always awesome to see students in the element. Um, that you guys are not using any inappropriate poses or facial expressions. So, sometimes the odd sticking the tongue out or the cool hand sign, it works awesome for social media. But when it comes to your fundraising profile, this is one of the first things that potential donors see. So it's always important that they see the best side of you, that you're always putting your best foot forward. So try and refrain from any weird or uncomfortable poses. That you're not using any inappropriate filters as well. So I do know that with Snapchat, there's a lot of different fun filters to use, but please do try and refrain from using those. Also refraining from using cropped or blurry pictures, because that also does take away from the magic that is you and the magic of your picture as well. So when it's blurry, obviously when your profile goes live on the website, it might not look too great, and it might not be the best showcase. So yeah, ensuring that the picture is clear and the quality is as great as it can be. And then also no facial obstructions. So there are times we know with COVID, we're taking pictures with our masks on. We're trying to be responsible. We're trying to showcase that we're being responsible, which is awesome. We support that. But when it does come to your profile, we do like to see who you are as a student, whose profile this belongs to. So any weird hand signs in front of the face or masks or sunglasses, it does take away from the magic that is the picture. So yeah, so the picture that you guys are looking at now is a great example of a picture that is profile friendly, fundraising profile friendly. Next slide please, Alzan. Yeah. So then the next set of documents that we'll be speaking about is the EEA1 form, and the medical note will follow shortly. So the reason why I bring these two up simultaneously is because they do go hand in hand. Right. So if you are a student that is living with a disability, then these are two of the documents that we will require from you when you are creating your fundraising profile. So the EA1 form is a formal document that you can actually download from the website itself. But if you are experiencing some issues with downloading it, or you're having trouble finding it on the website, you're more than welcome to email support or send us a WhatsApp message, and we can gladly assist you that way. So this is an example of the EA1 form. It's quite simple and quite easy. So it asks you to fill in the name of your employer, or employee rather. You would then include your name and your surname. So not your university name, just your actual name and your surname. And then where it asks for the employee number, you will then add the student number that you received when you registered at your university. And you'll then complete the form accordingly in terms of whether or not you have the disability, the name of the disability that you're living with, and then obviously signing it as a form of validation. Next slide also. Okay, so the medical note. So this is an official note from a practicing medical practitioner that details more of the disability that you are living with, and that you've indicated that you are living with on your fundraising profile. So most of the time we ask that the medical document is not older than 6 months, but this does depend on the longevity of the disability. So we do understand that there are many disabilities that are lifelong and that cannot be corrected through any kind of medical processes or procedures. So we do take that into account, and medical notes are often looked at on a case-by-case basis, and support will then contact you should we require more information, or should the medical note that you've provided us with not be sufficient enough for your fundraising profile. We also need the medical note to clearly state what the disability is that you've indicated on your profile. And it is important that it has the signature or official stamp of a practicing medical practitioner. This is very important because this is how we validate that this medical certificate is real, and that we can then proceed with processing your profile with the indicated disability. We also cannot accept a NSFAS disability assessment questionnaire. So this document is quite vague, and as we've stated clearly, we do need that official stamp or signature from a medical practitioner, and the NSFAS disability assessment questionnaire wouldn't carry that information, and therefore it cannot be used in place of an official medical note, and that the document is not from your university disability unit. So again, you might have registered it with your disability unit at your university, but we do need that official stamp or signature from a practicing medical practitioner, again for validation purposes. Next slide, also. Cool. So the certified ID copy. So when you are uploading your certified ID copy onto your fundraising profile, it is important that you take note of a couple of the following. So we need the document to have been certified within the past 6 months from the date that you are completing your profile, right? You also need to make sure that it shows all of your details clearly. So your name, your picture, your ID number. So there are times where the photocopy machine that you may have used can blur some of the details. Unfortunately, we cannot accept an ID copy where details cannot be clearly verified. And so therefore, it is very important that the details of the ID copy are not blurred, and that they are legible and clear so that we can validate the document. If you are using a smart ID, we do ask that both the front and the back of the ID copy is certified, again within a 6-month period. It's also very important that the ID copy that you are uploading, the certified ID copy you're uploading, matches the ID number that you used when you registered your profile, as Luando explained. So, for example, if you're using your ID copy to register your profile, you cannot upload the ID copy, or the certified ID copy rather, of a family member such as a parent or a guardian. It needs to also be your certified ID copy. We also ask that the ID copies are scanned documents and that they are not pictures or screenshots, because this can also compromise the details of the ID copy. Such, like we mentioned earlier, the details can be blurred. The picture might be a little warped, so it then becomes difficult to verify that particular document. And that it's also not cut off in any way. So when you are making the copy of your ID copy, it really helps when you center your ID book or your ID card in the middle of the page to make sure that there's no cutoffs on the top or on either side of the ID copy, because those documents also cannot be verified. Then we have the official fee statement. So the official fee statement is a document that you can receive directly from your university. And this is the document that we use primarily to verify the debt that you owe and also determine your fundraising goal. So it's very important that the official fee statement is not older than 30 days and that it appears on an official university letterhead, or it has the official university stamp. So either or is fine. We do not require a combination of both. So if the official fee statement is on the official letterhead, the stamp is not necessary, and vice versa. We also ask that the document is not a screenshot from your student portal. It needs to be on the official letterhead. It also needs to be a scanned document similar to the ID copy. We also ask that it is not a proof of registration, a fee quotation, or a fee estimate, because fee estimates and fee quotations are not exact amounts of what your studies are for the year or the debt that you owe. And so therefore it is difficult to determine an actual fundraising goal based on a fee estimate or a fee quotation. And then it's also important that it clearly shows the full amount that you are owing. So the balance at the end of the fee statement needs to be quite clear. It is very important that we have that information and that it's not cut off, or that the last page of the fee statement is not included, so that we can then, of course, include your fundraising goal on your fundraising profile. So your story or your biography. So if you guys are not new to the webinars that Feenix hosts, then you know that Alzan is the OG of webinars, and that last year she did an amazing 3-part series about personal branding. And in those webinars, we discussed in detail how important a story is and how it can really push your fundraising efforts forward. So what you're seeing on the screen now is kind of condensed guidelines from those webinars. So we definitely do encourage you to go to our Facebook page, go to our video section, and check out that personal branding webinar series. It's very insightful. It's got loads more detail, and it can really help you to shape the story that you want potential donors to see. So just to go through it briefly, it's always great to introduce yourself. This is the first step that you're taking. You're letting your donor know who you are. It can include your values, your morals, what it is that you enjoy doing, what you're studying, etc. And then also brag a bit, inspire your community. So what has led you to this point? What is a key event that you feel that has really shaped the person that you are at this point in your life, and how you feel that it can then propel you forward, not just within your fundraising journey, but even within your studies, any community involvement that you are involved in, and how you feel that you can give back to your community as well, because that's always important, the give then the take. It always goes well. And then closing remarks, so speak directly to your community, letting them know how their donations can impact your life positively, and just what it is that you're hoping to achieve, learn, gain throughout your fundraising journey, outside of the financial assistance and the donations. It's also very important to pay attention to things like punctuation and authenticity, because content, it's really important. It helps your donor to identify with you, but you also need to pay attention to those technicalities sometimes, because they also give your story a lot of life. So yeah, so definitely check out the personal branding webinar series that we did last year, for more in-depth tips and tricks on how to mold your story. And always remember, you are the custodian of your story, right? So in no way are we there to tell you how to write your story or what your story needs to look like. These are simply guidelines that can guide you on the best way to structure your story, so that you can identify with your donors in the best possible way. And then finally, the proof of registration. So this is a new document that we've been asking for. And so essentially, it's the proof of registration for the year that you are fundraising towards that we require. So let's say you have historical debt for the year 2020, and you are coming to the Feenix platform in 2022 because you're looking to fundraise towards that debt. We do require your 2020 proof of registration, right? So yes, it is a 2022 fundraising profile, but we need the proof of registration to validate that you were registered in the year that you are fundraising towards, right? If you have already graduated or you have not registered for the current academic year, you can email through the last proof of registration that you do have access to. For students who have also, as I mentioned, graduated already, we do also accept the letter of completion if you do have access to that. For students who might be struggling to obtain either a proof of registration or a letter of completion, please do reach out to support via email or via WhatsApp, and then we can take it further and we can look at other options and how to approach that situation. We also need the proof of registration to be on an official letterhead or to have an official stamp, so similar to the fee statement. So we ask that it is not from your student portal. It's also not a screenshot or a picture. And that, very important, it's not password protected. So we need a document that we can click and then have access to, because obviously we would not be able to keep track of everybody's passwords altogether. So it's very important that the document can be viewed easily, and there's not extra steps that need to be taken in order to view that information.
Thank you so much, Bashira, for taking us through the documents students are required to upload when creating a fundraising profile. I think you guys really did an amazing job in letting students know what's needed and explaining the documents needed. Unfortunately, we weren't able to show you guys examples due to the POPI Act, but we've spoken you through in depth about what is required when you want to create a Feenix fundraising profile. So I'll just put up everything that's needed again. So remember, you need to have a working email address. You need to include your personal and educational details and information, your sponsor's ID, which Luwando spoke about in depth, your profile picture. Remember, no funny poses, no Snapchat filters or anything like that. Then a certified ID copy, an official university fee statement, your story that you are able to write, and a story that you are ultimately proud of to share. As well as your latest proof of registration. And if you are a student living with a disability, remember you need to complete an EA1 form as well as send us your medical note confirming your disability. So now we'll be going into the next part of our session today. We'll be answering some questions which we are very excited to have. So guys, please feel free to pop in those questions in the comment section. If there's anything that you're still unclear about, just so we can clarify whatever it is that you might still be unsure of. We have Luwando and Bashira here and myself, and we like to think of ourselves as Feenix experts. So we are here to answer any questions you guys might have. Okay, we will be answering the first question. Thank you so much, Nabila. So Malasedi asked, how can one be funded? Because I've created the profile, but still there's zero rand has been funded. Do I need to share it on a different social media platform or? Okay, thank you so much for that question, Lasedi. So guys, once you've created your profile, it takes about 3 to 4 weeks for your profile to be moderated and validated. So all the documents that you guys sent needs to be reviewed by our team, and then only will your profile go live should you have uploaded all the correct documents and information. And then the next step would be, while you are waiting for your profile to be validated, you can go through all the webinars that we've done, the fundraising webinars that can be seen on our Facebook page or on our YouTube channel. If you want to view it on YouTube, because I know that's less data and we know the student struggle is real in terms of data, you can view those on YouTube, and we've really broken down for you guys. We've broken down what crowdfunding is, the crowdfunding principles, as well as, how to raise funds through using your Feenix profile. And of course, the most important thing that you would need to read after you've created a profile and your profile has gone live is to go through the first 100 guide. And once you've gone through it, you will have a deeper understanding of how to crowdfund for your outstanding university fees. And as you guys can hear from the name, it's called the First 100 Guide because ultimately it's a guide to help you raise your first 100 Rand. And that is also the minimum donation that a donor can make to you. But guys, you need to please go through those first 100, the first 100 Rand guide, as well as the fundraising webinars that we have had. So the principles of the First 100 Guide, which is also the principles of crowdfunding ultimately, is inspire, activate, and rally. So you need to really inspire your community to want to donate towards your outstanding university fees. You need to activate them by messaging them, sharing your profile with them, giving updates. And that's why it's so important to write an authentic and real story, because your community will be people that you know. So it can be members from your church, if you're part of, any other activities. Maybe you do sports at your university, or you are part of a choir team, or you are part of an ambassador program. It's about sharing your profile and letting the people closest to you know that you are fundraising for your outstanding university fees. We all know that when we were younger, we always had those donation letters that we got, where you would need to donate, or get someone to donate a 200 rand, a 2 rand, a 5 rand, a 10 rand, and that's basically what you'll be doing with your profile. Except now you're doing it online and not in the traditional sense that we know it, but ultimately it stays the same. And then the last one is to rally your community. So once you've gotten your community activated and they've donated, say you've gotten 5 people to donate 100 rand each, so that means you now have a 500 rand. Then you ask those people to start asking their community to donate to you towards your outstanding university fees or your fundraising goal on the Feenix platform. So you need to be sharing your profile. You need to be telling people that I am on this fee on Feenix, and I am crowdfunding for my university fees, and I need donations. Can you please assist, because I want to finish my degree. I want to become a teacher, because I love working with kids. Whatever your reasons are as to why you are on the Feenix platform, you need to explain that and let your community know that you need their help by donating as little as 100 rand. And yeah, if you have any more questions, feel free to send us an email at support@feenix.org, or then also be sure to watch the webinars and read through the First 100 Guide. Okay, next question, please. Okay, so Prof again. Lastly, I have just added more ID numbers. Well, I still need to confirm these via WhatsApp. So though that question, I'll be handing over to Loando.
Thanks, Ozan. So what happens was, whenever we ask you for an ID number, right, it's either when our service provider ran the household income, they weren't able to pick up any information with the ID number, so it could have been an incorrect ID number. So that's the main issue. So even though it feels like we ask you for your ID number over and over and over again, it might just be that the ID number, your sponsor's ID number that you're giving us, is incorrect. So just make sure that the ID number you've submitted is correct. 13-digit ID number, and just double check. So if it's a male, the middle numbers, you start with a 5. It's a female, 4 and below. So just check those things before you submit the ID number to us. So we'll never ask you for an ID number over and over again if it's correct. So just make sure that it's correct. But if you submit it to us and we run it and everything is correct, then you'll hear from us after moderation. If not, then we'll contact you again, Prof. So as I mentioned, just make sure that it's a valid South African ID number, please. And yeah, but you shouldn't have to submit ID number over and over again if it's correct. So just make sure that it's a valid South African ID number. Thank you.
Thank you so much, Loando. Okay, so we'll be doing the next question. Okay, so our next question is it possible for Feenix.org to help me with my registration fees? This year I'm not registered because I couldn't get money for registration, and Feenix.org helped me with my 2021 debt. Can it continue, because I'm only left with 1 semester to fulfill my dreams and graduate? Thank you so much for that question. And I will be handing over to Luando, who will be answering that question today.
Thanks, Risha. So at the moment, you cannot fundraise towards your registration fees because one of the documents we need when you create your profile is an official fee statement, and the only way you get that is if you've registered. So that document that Bashira mentioned that shows how much you owe, whether it's current debt or historical debt, you only get that from the university once you've registered. So that's why you can't use the platform to fundraise towards the registration fees, because for us to moderate your profile completely, we'll need that fee statement to enter your fundraising goal, and then the only way you can get that is you to register. So I mean, you can maybe just get your registration fee somewhere else, and then once that's done, then you can renew your profile, because you did mention that you were able to fundraise in Phoenix in the previous year. So once you've got the registration sorted for this year, you will renew your profile then by uploading your updated documents, including the fee statement for this year, onto your profile, then you can fundraise towards the new 2022 date. Thanks, Azar.
Thank you so much, Luando. I think we have time for two more questions. And then we'll unfortunately need to end the webinar. But if you guys are still struggling or you want sure about anything, please feel free to send us an email at support @feenix.org. Please send us an email, send us a WhatsApp. Luando, if you could maybe just let the students know our WhatsApp number in the comment section. And that way, if you have any more questions that we aren't able to answer during today's session, you are more than welcome to ask those questions via WhatsApp or via email. So I think a lot of the questions that we've now been receiving towards the end is a lot of questions asking about crowdfunding and how to crowdfund towards your outstanding university fees. And I would like to remind you guys to please watch the webinars that we've done on crowdfunding, the art of fundraising, and, going through that first 100 Rand guide. It's so vital. I know it's a lot of information, but once you've read it and you understand it, it'll just make things so much easier. We've also done webinar series dealing on personal branding, and even those we also dealt with that and dug into crowdfunding, because ultimately you need to be promoting yourself, and that will be done through various ways, through you sharing your profile, through you letting your community know that you are crowdfunding for your outstanding university fees, through you coming up with creative ways on how to fundraise. We've had students in the past that instead of asking for birthday gifts, she asked for people to donate towards a Feenix profile. We've had other students who were so successful in raising I think it was about 20,000 Rand, and that was through tapping into her mother's community. So sometimes you might not think that you have a community, or your community might not be able to help you, fundraise for your outstanding university fees. But there might be that aunt or uncle that's really well connected, and will be able to assist you. So focus on finding a champion, and that person will be backing you, sharing, and asking on behalf of you. And then the most important thing to remember is, once you've received a donation, thank your donors. It is so important for you to always remember to thank your donors. and making sure that you keep them up to date with where you are in your fundraising journey. And that is it from our side today. We would like to thank you guys so much for joining us. It's really been amazing to have the session with you guys. I hope you found it helpful. And like I said, if you still have any more questions, feel free to contact us. But thank you guys so much. We hope that you guys have a lovely weekend. And thank you once again for joining. Okay, thanks guys. Bye.